What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today is the day where they have released the full spoilers for Explorer Anthology 1 and Historic Anthology 6, both of which will be dropping tomorrow, July 28th, 2022. And today I want to talk about what cards will be included in those, take a look at them, and see what we can be excited for. Also, just a little public service announcement. Yes, I'm in a little card frame today. I do not have my green screen at the moment due to some things moving around in my apartment. We'll be back to that soon. But in any event, thanks for bearing with me as we work through that. In any event, Explorer Anthology 1. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. I think we desperately needed new cards into the Explorer format. It is getting closer to Pioneer now, and that's really exciting. So I'm jazzed to see it. There were a couple cards we already knew of, but let's dive into the full spoilers, take a look, and let's see what we can do. All right, so in white, we have Favored Hoplite. We were aware of this card. It definitely fits into like a Boros heroic Spellslinger kind of shell. We actually do see it in like feather style shells in Pioneer already. So it's really cool to see it now entering Explorer on Arena. It has the ability, whenever you cast a spell that targets it, put a +1/+1 counter on it and prevent all damage that would be dealt to it this turn. Really cool stuff. Makes for an attacker that is incredibly tough to take out, and a blocker that can be really difficult to deal with if you've got spells lying around. Also, cards like Reckless Rage are phenomenal with this little guy. Just throwing that out there. Then we also have Rally the Ancestors. This is X white for an instant that says return each creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile those creatures at the beginning of your next upkeep. Exile Rally the Ancestors. So this is actually really sweet. If it's late in the game and you've got a bunch of mana lying around, this can pull out everything in your graveyard. And if the game has drug on a while, if you've been hit by a board wipe or two, that could be a lot of stuff. So, and because it's at instant speed, you can pull them up on your opponent's turn to block for you and potentially get some cool ETB synergies. Or you can use it offensively as well. So I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, the problem is they do exile on your upkeep. So if the creatures that you're pulling back don't have haste, you won't be able to take advantage of them as attackers on your turn. I'm just double checking, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. So that is a big issue that you need to be aware of. You can't just end the game by pulling all your stuff out of the graveyard, swinging in for the win, and calling it a day. Unless you have cards like Tuk Tuk Rubble Fort or other cards that give haste that can do that. But you got to build your deck around it. But really, this is a great defensive option. This is a really sweet way. If your opponent has successfully mitigated your board state and they're attacking for the win, you can just spend 5-6 mana, pull your whole team back, block perfectly, because you're not really worried about those creatures surviving, because they're going to be dead and they're going to exile the upkeep anyway. So it's a really cool, it's a cool design, it's a cool card. I don't think this is a 4 of in any deck, but as a solid 2 of in like Abzan Reanimator strategies, I can see it. The problem is that it exiles the cards afterwards when it's all done is a bit of an issue, so that's kind of a bummer. Be aware of that. Definitely be careful with that. So actually, maybe a deck that leverages the graveyard a lot may not be where you want this. This might be more of a sideboard card to deal with like mid-range decks if you find yourself in like an aggro strategy, like a Boros or a mono white aggro strategy. I don't know. Anyway, just a thought. In any event, let's keep moving on. So in blue, we have Ensoul Artifact. That's right, the scissors are coming to Arena. I'm incredibly excited about this one. This is an enchantment aura for 1 and a blue that says Enchant Artifact. Enchanted Artifact is a creature with base power and toughness 5/5 in addition to its other types. So on turn 1, you could throw like a Tormod's Crypt or a Mox Opal or freaking anything. I'm naming 0 drops just because, I mean, any 1 drop would fit the bill too. Like, this could seriously be freaking anything. And then on turn 2, you immediately have a 5/5 that you can swing with? Get out of here. That's insane. Now, you do have to devote 2 cards to it, so that is no small cost. But, I mean, worth it. I'm jazzed. I think this card is awesome, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Like, cards like Blackstaff of Waterdeep have wanted to be in Ensoul Artifact for a really long time, and just haven't quite gotten there. But in this case, let's do it. I'm all in. We also have Mausoleum Wanderer. Spirit players out there are going to be very happy to see this one. It is a 1/1 flyer for 1 spirit. Whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and you can sacrifice Mausoleum Wanderer to counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is Mausoleum Wanderer's power. So that's just sweet. As far as tempo decks go, having counter spells sitting on the board, and on top of that, it's a flyer that is going to be buffing itself as other spirits are entering the battlefield. That's incredible. It's just an excellent, super efficient card, which is exactly what Blue Spirits wants. So Mausoleum Wanderer is fantastic. I'm glad to see it in the mix. I say that now. I'm very glad to see it now. In a week when I've gotten blown out by this, like for a dozen times, going up against like mono blue tempo spirits, I may be singing a different tune, but for right now I have to see it. Yeah, good stuff. All in all, good stuff. All right, next up we have black, and these are exciting. I'm actually super jazzed about these. So Kalidas, Trader of Get, first and foremost, is a 3/4 lifelinking vampire rogue for 2 black. Now this is one that we've talked about before because it was spoiled when they mentioned Explorer Anthology 1. So cool card. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile that card and create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So you sack your cat, sorry, it's gone forever. It's part of the deal now. Oh, and I have a zombie now, thank you for that. And I can pay 3, sacrifice the zombie or another vampire, and put 2 +1/+1 counters on Kalidas. It's just the life swing that this thing provides while hating on your opponent's graveyard shenanigans. Excellent. Absolutely excellent. Just a great card. Then we also have Shadowborn Apostle. I didn't expect this one. I'm not going to lie. I did not expect Shadowborn Apostle to be making the rounds here. It is a 1/1 human cleric for 1. This is also a common, by the way, so you can craft this very easily. Just throwing that out there. And a deck can have any number of cards named Shadowborn Apostle in them. You can then pay 1 black, sacrifice 6 creatures named Shadowborn Apostle, search your library for a demon card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Freaking sweet. This card is awesome. There are also some amazing demons that are legal in Explorer right now. Vilis and Razakath come to mind. I'm just going to throw those out there. You can do with those what you will. But Shadowborn Apostles, they're freaking sweet. They're very powerful. You can have a ton of them. What's not to love? Now, the one thing to be aware of, cards like Legion's End and Maelstrom Pulse exist, and those blow up a particular card as well as any copies or any other cards with the same name. Be very careful about that, because I have a feeling with Shadowborn Apostle now making the joining the team, if you will, in Explorer, there's a very real possibility that those cards are going to be at least seeing sideboard play. So just be aware of that. But all in all, it's a really cool build around that you can do some really neat things with. So I'm definitely going to be building some weird jank around Shadowborn Apostle. Can't wait. Then finally, in the black section, we have Tainted Remedy, 2 and a black enchantment. If an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. It's just awesome. It's a 3-mana enchantment, turns all life gain into life drain. Let's go. Like I think, given how ubiquitous life gain decks are right now, with cards like Righteous Valkyrie and Prosperous Innkeeper and Lunarch Veteran, all the cards that just gain life incidentally, Bishop of Wings, how could I forget? Those cards are freaking everywhere right now. They're very, very popular because the strategy is easy to understand, and a lot of those cards are at lower rarities. So if you splurge on a Righteous Valkyrie or a Voice of the Blessed, you can do a lot of stuff, and then on top of that, you can just pick up a Johnny's Pride Mates and things of that nature that help flesh that deck out at the common and uncommon rarities. Makes a lot of sense, actually. From a budget perspective or a new player perspective, I can see the appeal of the deck. Tainted Remedy just says, knock all that crap out. Life gain decks are just off the table completely. So this is brutal, and on top of that, this isn't universal. It says if an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. So you can keep gaining life all day. It doesn't matter. It just messes with your opponents. So Tainted Remedy, going to be an awesome sideboard card against heavy life gain decks. Also, I'm talking about heavy life gain decks specifically, but even cards like Prosperous Innkeeper are seen in ramp decks, and that just incidentally brings about life gain. And so if you have Tainted Remedy in the mix, your opponent could just be gaining some life throughout the course of the game, and all of that ends up hurting them in the end now. And maybe they didn't think about that. You know, like I can totally see a world in which people play out stuff into props for Sin Keepers with Tainted Remedy on the field, and just get domed for it. I can also see situations where people throw like environmental sciences that gains 2 life, and in fact lose 2 life and just didn't even realize that was going to happen. So Tainted Remedy is really cool. It kind of rewrites the rules of the game in a neat way. So very cool stuff. I like cards like this. I like very specific hosers, and Tainted Remedy is just excellent. All right, in red, first up we have Alesha, who smiles at death. This is actually a very cool card. There's also an excellent short story featuring Alesha called The Truth of Names on the Wizards website. I would highly recommend you look that up. It's from a number of years ago now, back in the Tarkir block when Alesha was introduced, and really good stuff. But in any event, Alesha, she is a 3/2 for 200 red first striker, human warrior. Whenever Alesha, who smiles at death, attacks, you may pay 2. They have to be either white or black, they're hybrid. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. So there's a lot of really cool stuff this can be grabbing, not the least of which are, say, like Skyclave Apparition or Brutal Cathar. Being able to pull those up on attacks is incredible. I have a feeling there are going to be a lot of Boros aggro decks that want to take advantage of this card, or Rakdos for that matter. Yeah, like Ravenous Chupacabra all of a sudden could become an Alesha target. Like, a lot of crazy things can result from this card. And it only costs 2 on the attack. And you get a 3/2 first striker for 3 for your troubles. So I think Alesha is fantastic. Like, absolutely fantastic. You better believe I'm going to be building all kinds of stuff. I don't, like... One of the things I find is I don't build Historic Brawl very often. About once a set, one of the legends will be like, okay, I'll tinker with that. I think Alesha, I'm probably going to build a Historic Brawl Alesha deck, because I think that the possibilities there are just really cool. So, great card. Love it. All right, next up we have Searing Blood. This is an instant for red. Searing Blood deals 2 damage to target creature. When that creature dies this turn, Searing Blood deals 3 damage to the creature's controller. This is savage. In a red aggro strategy, being able to knock out a blocker, bolt your opponent in the face, and then attack, oh, brutal. Love it. I think Searing Blood is absolutely fantastic. This is going to be, I don't know about a must include in like all mono red decks, but I think it's rock solid in mono red aggro decks. I'll be shocked if we don't see this. I think the card's great. Also, that artwork is terrifying, if I may say. It's like really upsetting. You know, it's depicting a person with their palms sliced open and they appear to be bleeding magma. Really weird stuff. But yeah, in any event, awesome card, very powerful removal spell, good burn. You'll love to see it. All right, then we have Teamer Battle Rage. This is an instant for 1 red. This is a common. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn, and it has Ferocious. That creature also gains trample until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. This is kind of Embercleave at home, and I dig it. Like, this feels like a fixed... Well, it came out before Embercleave, so I feel like this was kind of like paving the way for Embercleave. If you have a creature with power 4 or greater, double strike and trample can be the difference between victory and defeat. That said, it is a combat trick. And I don't know about you, but I tend to avoid combat tricks in most of my decks because it requires you to spend specific cards, or it requires you to hold up cards until specific conditions are met for them to really provide a punch. And in this case, Teamer Battle Rage, it's good. Like, it is a good trick, don't get me wrong, but without an ability that can, like, pull it from the graveyard, for example, like, I gotta say, in, like, an Arcanist build, this would be awesome. And I have no doubt people are using it in those situations already, where you can recur it out of your graveyard repeatedly. That could be very, very good. But on its face, I mean, it's a combat trick. It's a good one. I'm happy to see it. Like, it's a cool thing. But speaking of combat tricks, we also have Titan Strength. Target creature gets +1 or +3 or +1 until end of turn and scry 1. Instant for 1. Just, it's a thing. It does what it does. Does it well. It's a good combat trick. You boost power by 3. So really, in a lot of situations, this is going to effectively be a lightning bolt to your opponent, you know, to your opponent's life total. You know, you hit it on an unblocked creature, they take an additional 3 damage, and you get to scry. That scry 1 is really where you're getting the value, because red doesn't have a ton of abilities that can manipulate the top of the library, so being able to pick exactly what you're going to draw is really where the value on this card is. All in all, it's fine. Like, I don't know, you know, in a deck where you'd want to run Infuriate, you may want to run Titan Strength instead, but again, It fits really nicely into Arcanist style builds and things of that nature. It also would work nice in that Boros deck with the Hoplite. So just throwing that out there. All right, let's see what else we have in green. Oh, this is where stuff gets fun. All right, actually, this has all been fun. What am I talking about? New Magic cards are coming in the middle of the summer slump. Let's go. So Back to Nature, instant for 1 and a green. Destroy all enchantments. Oh, do I wish this was standard legal right now. Yeah, nice runes deck, bro. Boom. I think that's absolutely savage, and I love it. So if you're running a deck that doesn't have any enchantments, there are a lot of decks that are running around right now that this completely smashes. And it only costs 2. Now, that said, if you're not going up against one of those styles of decks, it does almost nothing. So this is definitely a sideboard piece, but in a meta, so if we're in a situation after these drop in Explorer where enchantments are meta, that's a big if. But, you know, if there is some kind of Naya enchantments list running around or some kind of like Selesnya enchantment package that becomes popular, Back to Nature just shuts it down. Again, much like I said with the, was it Tainted Remedy, the idea of shutting down a specific strategy, I think this is super fun. Back to Nature definitely qualifies. Next up, we have Elvish Mystic. This is Llanowar Elves. Like, exactly. But you can now run 8 of them. It's just a 1/1 Elf Druid for 1 that taps to add 1 green mana. It's, like, straight up, you can now run 8 Llanowar Elves. So if you're in a deck that wants Llanowar Elves, take a bunch of them. Have a ton of Llanowar Elves now. That's awesome. It's just a really cool card. I'm glad to see it here. I'm actually really stoked about Elvish Mystic, because a ton of ramp decks and a ton of even like mono green, like stompy decks are going to be so much better as a direct result of this card being here. So if you're into that kind of thing, well, awesome. If you're not, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, but it's definitely going to be happening. Tireless Tracker. We have that's our next up. It is a human scout, 2 and a green for a 3/2. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate, which means create a clue token. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. So this is giving you constant card draw in green, which is freaking sweet. And it's tied to a landfall trigger, which is just excellent. And your creature grows as you take advantage of the card draw trigger. That said, you need to pump a lot of mana into those clues in order to be drawing the cards. But to be honest, you're in green, and we just talked about Elvish Mystic being here. It's not going to be that hard to you're going to have mana lying around. You're not going to have trouble with Tireless Tracker. Great card. It sees a ton of play in older formats with good reason, and I think it's going to be slotted into a number of decks in Explorer right out the gate. I'll be shocked if we don't see this starting tomorrow all over the place. Speaking of cards that we're going to see all over the place, well, okay, maybe not this next one, but the one afterwards, 100%. First up, Battlewise Hoplite, 2/2 for white-blue. Heroic, whenever you cast a spell that targets Battlewise Hoplite, put a +1/+1 counter on it and then scry 1. That's actually just good. I don't know if it's great, but it's just solid. Being able to scry 1 every time you target it is just pretty sweet, and I like that. That said, it doesn't fit in the same Boros deck that we talked about earlier that the favored Hoplite falls into, but you know, because it's blue. But all in all, still a good card. Like, there's still good stuff going on here, so I'm not mad at it. Then we have Siege Rhino. I am so jazzed to see this card. It is not even funny. This is a 4/5 Trampler for 4. 1 white, black, green. When Siege Rhino enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life. Dope. There are going to be so many blinky shenanigans that I'm going to be doing with this card. It's not even funny. Yeah, I cannot tell you how many times I'm going to blink this thing. I cannot tell you how many times I'm going to be doing weird nonsense with Mystic Reflection with this. Siege Rhino is great. It's one of the strongest ETB creatures. Well, it's a classic ETB creature. I shouldn't say strongest, because there's some really bonkers stuff these days. But it's excellent. Siege Rhino is absolutely fantastic. I'm really glad to see it here, and I really hope it has a home in Explorer. I think it is going to see play. I think this is a card we're going to see all over the place, because this is Abzan midrange the card. That's exactly what this is, and I love me some Abzan midrange. So let's go. Yeah, I'm excited. Siege Rhino's great. All right. And then we have a couple left. We have Slaughter Games. This is 2 black-red. For a sorcery that cannot be countered, choose a non-land card name. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. Then that player shuffles. So this is actually especially brutal if your opponent is playing a deck you're familiar with, or if you're a deck you know. in a Grixis control shell, this could be insane. And if your opponent is running control themselves, being able to name the counterspell that you're most concerned about and just get it out of their deck is excellent, or whatever removal piece. I know there are plenty of times if I'm running, you know, if I'm running an aggressive strategy, I just need to prevent my board from being wiped in one way or another. And Slaughter games could theoretically do that. Granted, it's a 4 mana that doesn't add to the board, so that's something you got to worry about in deck construction. But all the same, cool card. I like it a lot. And you'll notice other cards like this, like a Necromentia, for example, give your opponent some kind of benefit if you take cards out of their hand. Slaughter games doesn't do that. It is just straight up get rid of them, and then they shuffle their library. Pretty cool stuff. I like it. And it's choose any non-land card name, yeah, and you get perfect information on their well, you'd have information on the graveyard anyway, but you have perfect information on their hand and library. Good stuff. It's just very powerful. I dig it. And then, as far as this is our last colored spell, this is one we did talk about previously because they spoiled it early. Supreme Verdict. 1 white, blue. The spell can't be countered. Destroy all creatures. This is a mirror breaker in Azori's control. So if you're in Azori's control and your opponent has a board state, you just get to shut it down. Very good stuff. The fact that it can't be countered is a big freaking deal, and it's the same mana cost as Wrath of God. So if you're in Azorius, like if you have blue anyway in your mana base, this is strictly better Wrath of God, in my opinion. I think it's excellent, and we're going to see a lot more control as a direct result of this being in the format, I think. So buckle up. This is going to be a thing. It's definitely going to be a thing. And then finally, for the Explorer Anthology. Oh, no, there are 2 more cards. Sorry. There's 1 artifact. Hangerback Walker. This is a 0/0 artifact creature construct for XX. Hangerback Walker enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. When Hangerback Walker dies, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying for each +1/+1 counter on Hangerback Walker, and you can pay 1 tap to put a +1/+1 counter on it. The thing that makes Hangerback Walker especially cool is, 1, it fits just about anywhere on your curve. If you have an even number of mana lying around, you can just pump it into this guy and just get a thing. But what really makes Hangerback Walker shine is if you can combine it with other abilities or other spells that put +1/+1 counters on your stuff. Because it's just a bank where you can be putting a ton of counters, and it becomes this very big threat that the opponent has to worry about. And if they blow it up, it just breaks apart into a bunch of tiny little threats the opponent has to worry about. Really cool stuff. It's a sweet card, sweet design, sweet idea. I'm a big fan. In decks that are running Proliferate shenanigans, and decks that are running cards like Steel Overseer that put +1/+1 counters on all your creatures, like, this card is sweet. I love it. I'm very happy to see that here. It's kind of like it reads to me like a fair Walking Ballista. Kinda. Not quite. But anyway, it's in that same vein. In any event, finally, the last card for the Explorer Anthology is Darksteel Citadel. This is an artifact land that is indestructible that can tap for a colorless. Importantly, this does enter the battlefield untapped. That's a big frickin' deal. And if you're in an artifact type of deck, the fact that your lands count for artifacts is a big deal. If you have anything with affinity, for example, which I don't believe in Explorer there's anything officially with affinity, but let's be honest, there's some cards with affinity. Counting the artifact is great. Also, having an indestructible land can be pretty sweet because you can use cards like Cleansing Wildfire or Dire Strain Rampage to ramp yourself very, very effectively by blasting your own Darksteel Citadel. It doesn't get destroyed. You go ramp, you find those other lands, put them onto the battlefield. Very powerful stuff. Really, really powerful. How many times can I say powerful? It's an unassuming card on its face. It doesn't look like much, but it's definitely there. So I think this is a great include. Great addition. Also, the fact that it taps for colorless mana means that it works really nicely in decks that already care about Forsaken Monument. Like, there is a mono brown deck running around right now. I think Darksteel Citadel is an automatic include in that deck. I'll just drop it in because why not? Like, it's good. Anyway, that's been Explorer Anthology 1. I'm also going to be touching on Historic Anthology 6, which is another one that's going to be coming out. I will split that into 2 videos. I'm looking at the runtime, realizing maybe this is a bit long. So thank you so much for checking this out. If you found this helpful, or if you wanted to hear more of my silly banter when it comes to Magic the Gathering, please hit that subscribe button. I'm nearing 1,000 subscribers, and that would be an awesome accomplishment. Make me super duper happy. So if you want to help make me happy, please hit that subscribe button and also hit the thumbs up while you're down there. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.